Making an offer on a house can be complicated and stressful, especially for first-time buyers. After watching this video, you will understand the building blocks of an offer and you will have confidence when talking to an agent or making an offer yourself. This video is not legal advice and is purely informational and comes from my own experience as an agent and an investor. Let's start with the basics. Before making an offer, get a pre-approval letter from a lender. Not a pre-qualification, but pre-approval. The difference between both is that for pre-approval, the lender would review not only your credit, but also recent pay stubs, bank statements, and tax returns. On the right side, you can see what a pre-approval letter should look like. It should only be conditional on appraisal, final underwriting, and standard settlement conditions. If you pay in cash, get proof of funds. This will make your offer appear solid.
So next you have to choose your contract. There are basically two different types of contracts in pretty much all states. One would be as is, and the other one will be standard, and I will show you the Florida as is and standard contract. So this is the as is contract, and as is contract does not mean that you accept the property in as is condition and you cannot walk away based on the findings of the inspection. What it does mean is the seller doesn't have the obligation to fix anything. However, this should not stop you from trying to renegotiate the price based on the findings from the inspection report. And let me show you in the Florida contract where that's located: property inspection and right to cancel. And here, this is very important. You have a certain time frame where you have to do the inspection. If you leave it blank in Florida, then it's 15 days, or you can make it shorter or longer. It depends on the need of your needs and the needs of the seller. And this is the standard contract, and I will show you what the standard contract has. Is it specifies the seller is obligated to fix warranted items up to, in this case, if you leave it blank, let me just highlight this. If you leave it blank, is 1.5% of the purchase price. And here, wood destroying, in the same, there is a limit for wood destroying organisms. So whatever's here, the seller has obligation to fix these two items up to 1.5% or whatever. It could be amount. It's just it's called a repair limit. And so that's the difference between as is and the standard contract. Lately, most of the banks, most of the sellers' banks, they prefer the as is. And actually, if from the buyer standpoint, you are also better off using as is because it gives you more flexibility to either renegotiate or walk away.
Next building block is determining the price you want to offer. You can estimate the correct selling price by doing a comparative market analysis. If you don't know how, check our video on this topic. Next, check the list to sales price ratio. Your agent can give you that information, or you can go to Redfin and get it yourself. Next, call the seller or the listing agent to let them know that an offer is coming and request a seller property disclosure. The seller is required to disclose all known defects, especially the ones that are not visible. The listing agent usually has this available. Some sellers may refuse to provide the disclosure, usually banks and owners who have not lived in the property. Also, try to get more information about the seller motivation. You may get this or not. Real estate is people's business, and establishing a personal connection is very important, especially in multiple offer situations.
So let's write the offer. This is as is contract for sale, Florida. Your state contract may be similar, may be different, but it's gonna have the same basic blocks. And let's start from the beginning. Here are the parties. This is the seller and the buyer, full names. I already filled this out because I don't want you to wait for me to do it. This is the county. The legal description right here, you can find this from your property appraiser website. And address. The only thing that's notable here is it includes, enlists the personal property that's included, and it lists everything that's not attached, fixed to the wall is considered personal property. And here I wrote other items included in personal property is above ground pool. And below there is items, personal property items that are excluded, and the seller is saying is the barbecue is excluded. Okay, so let's move on to the purchase price. Let's say that the purchase price is $200,000, and the deposit is held by Escrow by the new title company. And I know this when I spoke to the seller's agent or the seller, they told me that that's where it's going. If you don't know this, it can be filled out later. And my deposit is $5,000. That's what they required. Generally 1% is sufficient, but every state and every county has different, I wouldn't say laws because there are no laws, but they're customs. So ask your real estate agent for that. And these things I'm gonna fill out later for escrow agent address and phone number. So this, it says here that additional escrow deposit. I'm not making any other deposits. This is the only deposit I'm making. This is if you're splitting the deposit, and I don't see many people doing that. So you can just enter the number here. So the financing that I'm gonna be getting for this property is $100,000. Okay, no other money, no other financing. And so from the $200,000 that is the purchase price minus $5,000, which is my deposit, and the financing that I will be getting, so I need to come, so 200 minus 5,000 minus my financing 100,000, I need to come to closing with $95,000. So that's all you need to do in the financing. Next, you need, this is how the time for acceptance of the offer. If you don't want to give your seller time to shop your offer, you can give them reasonable time. Let's say give them a couple of days. So I'm writing this on the 12th. I'm going to give them to the 2 days. Let's see, December 20, 2020. Okay, this will date my video. But I'm giving them 2 days, and that seems to be enough to accept the offer. You may just give them 1 day. So moving on, financing. This is very important. If you paying cash, check this A. If you getting financing, check B, and make sure how long you have to get loan approval. Just leave this empty. 30 days is probably enough, but talk to your lender. What's important here is to specify exactly what type of financing you're getting. Is fixed, let's say a fixed loan, not to exceed, and this is very important, not to exceed 4% in term and for a term of 30 years. And the reason this is very important is your lender may come back and say, hey, I got you financing, but it's at 8%. Would you take it? Well, if you didn't include these, the numbers here, that it's a fixed loan, it doesn't exceed 4%, you actually would, the seller will have a reason to keep your deposit because you got the loan. It just wasn't at these specified percentages in this specific type of loan. So make sure you include this here. And then buyers will have to make an application. 5 days, it's enough. It's not that important. Pay attention. I mean, read the whole contract, evidently, but pay specific attention to the fillable spaces. So moving on, and this is C and D if you're assuming a mortgage and if you're getting financing from the seller, so we'll ignore that. Title evidence, also this is the title company problem. They need to do it 5 days before closing. That's enough. It's nothing to do with you specifically. And check one, who's gonna pay for title. Usually is a seller, because whoever actually, and this is customary, it's not law, and it could be different in every state or county. So whoever pays actually for the title insurance, then they pick the title company. So we'll say seller. In our area, seller is customary to pay for title insurance and pick the title company. And we don't want abstract, we actually want title insurance. So closing date. This is important. Give yourself enough time to close. You don't want to be asking for extensions. At the same time, you don't want to make the closing so far away that you can lose the seller would not want to accept your offer because of that. So talk to your lender and they will tell you how long it would take. I mean, let's say, I would say like 45, like day, I'm sorry. So I'm just gonna write something here, which is not gonna be correct, but 2020. Okay, 30 days nowadays seems to be not enough, but if your lender can do it, then go ahead and put 30 days. Here I would ignore this. If just read it. This is if something should happen and the closing is to be delayed. You know, how long before either party can cancel the contract? 14 days. So, and so this, the restriction, easement, limitation, this is for the use of the property. I would say residential use, occupancy, assignability. Now this is very important because I see a lot of wholesalers actually include a whole addendum in their contracts that they're planning to assign, and that's completely unnecessary because it has this clause here, assignability, may assign and thereby be released, may not assign. If you're not going to be assigning the contract, check this may not assign. And the reason for that is especially if you're working directly with seller, they may not be that knowledgeable. But personally, as an agent, when I looked at contracts that I get for one of my listings, I would look at this, because if I see may assigned, I immediately think this is an investor. I'm going to have problems with closing, so I'm not going to advise my seller to accept it. So if you're not planning to assigning the contract, do not check may assign. Disclosures. In here is for additional special assessments. We'll say the seller would pay all these assessments. We'll move on. Home warranty. I'm generally not concerned with anybody buying home warranty, so ignore this. And this is the inspection period. Remember, we talked about as is, and this is as is contract. So we'll say the buyer has 15 days from effective date, the date when everybody signed the contract, to inspect the property. And with this contract, I have two options. I can either accept it and continue with the contract, or I can renegotiate it and go to the seller and say, well, Mr. Seller, I have found $30,000 worth of repairs that need to be done, so let's renegotiate the price. I'm gonna be walking away. So you have that option as well. And actually it's three options, because you can accept it as is, you can renegotiate the price, or you can cancel and get your deposit. And so in here, this is where you will include all the special, all the addendum. For example, if you're getting a FHA or VA, let's say, if there is financing, if you have homeowner association, you need to get that addendum. If the property is older than 1970, I believe, so get the lease-based paint. Your agent will tell you exactly what you need and get those addendums attached. And special clauses. This is where, if you're asking for seller concessions, let's say I would like the seller to pay 6% towards my closing costs, I will write like seller to pay, to buy, no, to pay up to, I usually write not percentage, but I write amount up to 6,000 in buyer's closing costs and prepaids. Okay, so this is where you if you have like special clause and all that. So that's it. That's all it takes to fill out a contract. And here, this is where you sign. This is where the listing broker, your broker, would put their information, and that's all. And please read everything, but pay specific attention to the things that you need to fill out.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please support this channel and subscribe. My goal is to create videos with hands-on practical information you can use in your everyday real estate business.